The following is a special presentation of the Decibel Geek podcast. Decibel Geek podcast with Aaron Camaro and Chris Sinzak.
That's right, it's time once again for the Decibel Geek podcast, and time to give your ears a brush with greatness today. That's right, I'm your host, Aaron Camaro, joined as always by your other host, because there's two of us, my good friend Chris Sinzak. What's going on, brother?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great, man. Always happy when it's time to record Decibel Geek. And we talked about this week, what we were going to do. We had the great show last week with the Super Beat the Geek week, and that was a lot of fun, and everybody loves Beat the Geek, so it's always fun to do that, and you came out looking really good on that one. But this week, we're trying something a little bit different. One of the coolest things about being a rock fan is getting to finally meet somebody that you really admire. And you and I know what that's like because we do a rock podcast. So we've gotten to meet all kinds of different cool people. And on top of that, Rockin' Pod. I mean, how many cool people have we met through the years through Rockin' Pod? Well, today we're going to be talking with three different people we've selected that say they've got great stories to tell us about the times that they had brushes with greatness, and we're going to talk all about it here today.
Yeah, and this is something we plan to do more often because everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
And so when you listen to these stories, if you've got something you think can tops what's being said on this episode, let us know. Don't put it in the comments section because then you give the story away. Message Decibel Geek or message Aaron or message me.
Well, how about this? How about if in the comments section for this, when it comes out on the Facebook, if you were to become a guest on the Decibel Geek podcast to do a little brush with greatness with us, who would be the subject of your story? So just put the name. And that way, when we decide we're going to do volume 2 of this, because we're definitely going to do volume 2, today was just the experiment. Today is the pilot, if you will. Yeah. But we can look back on this post on the Facebook page and go, oh, okay, well, this person's got a story about this guy, or that person's got a story about this band. And when we do the second volume of this, we can look back and go, hey, you mentioned that you had a story about so-and-so. Would you be interested in coming on and telling us about it?
Yeah, that works for me.
That works for me, too. That'll make it nice and easy. So that's your homework on this week's episode. In the comments section, write the name of the person or the band that you've got an awesome story about, and there's a good chance we could be calling you to ask you to be a guest when we do this again. Awesome. So we've got some cool stories going on today, but before we get to all that, you know us, we've got to take care of the business, and holy moly, we've got some podcast reviews. Oh, that's my favorite thing. This one here, first off, right off the top, it's an Apple Podcast review. Comes to us all the way from the beautiful land of Australia. Beautiful land, beautiful people, rock and roll. That's what I know about Australia. And great reviews. This one's got all 5 stars, and it's entitled Takes Me Back. And it goes like this. Anybody who's ever watched Heavy Metal Parking Lot and wanted to get in a DeLorean and land in the Cap Center parking lot on a warm summer night in 1986 before a Priest concert, this is the show for you. Well said. Well said right there. That comes to us, like I said, from Smith St. Rocker via Apple Podcasts in the wonderful land of Australia.
So cool.
Gotta love that. That's a well said review right there, I gotta say.
Yeah, that's great. And I know it's like was it 35th anniversary of Heavy Metal Parking Lots coming up in 2021.
Oh yeah? Oh, yeah. Nice. Hey, we don't need an excuse to want to hang out with those guys. Oh
no, that was a great thing. And Jalen Graham of Dope Owens, rest in peace, brother.
Yeah, we miss that guy. He was such a cool dude, and I'm glad we got to meet all those guys, and hopefully, maybe in 2021, like I said, we don't need an excuse, but we got one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm already working on things.
Nice. Rockin' Pod 2021, baby. I'm ready to start promoting it already. All right, then we got another review. This one comes to us on Facebook. That makes it a recommendation. Comes to us from our old dear friend, Andrew Jacobs. He recommends the Decibel Geek podcast, and he says, I felt really bad that it had been so long since Decibel Geek had gotten a Facebook recommendation.
So it's a pity recommendation.
Hey, we'll take them. So I figured that I'd delete my old recommendation and write a new one. You don't have to read it on an episode if you don't want to, though. But here we are. We're doing it. By far my favorite rock and metal podcast. I've been listening since almost day one, and it just keeps getting better and better. The quarantine sessions have also been my favorite. What do you know? Quarantine listens. Elvis Presley is the king of rock and roll, though I personally think it should be Frank Zappa. David Lee Roth is the living king of rock and roll. And Chris and Aaron are the kings of rock and roll podcasting.
Nice.
Gotta love that. From Andrew Jacobs' Facebook recommendation. If you guys want to leave us a review or recommendation, it's just as easy as that. You can be cool as Andrew. You can be cool as Smith St. Rocker via Apple Podcasts, and you can leave us a review and a recommendation. We're going to read it on the show. You know we will, because we love them so much. So if you want to hear your name and your review read, that's just a simple way to do it.
Yep, and our other favorite people, the Geeks of the Week, these are people that shared on Facebook and retweeted it on Twitter last week's episode.
Man, last week's episode was kind of a train wreck.
It was a good, in the best way, though.
That's right, man. I got a lot of really great feedback on that one. People love the Beat the Geek. Flawed questions and all.
So Beat the Geek was fun to do, and we're going to make Beat the Geek kind of a featured thing on the live streaming thing that we're working on. We're kind of getting all the pieces in place for that. That'll be on YouTube and Facebook. And if you want to be eligible, just go to patreon.com/DecibelGeek. Sign up for as little as $1, and you'll be eligible to be on the show.
Yeah, not only that, you're going to get a whole bunch of extra content that we've created over the years here on Decibel Geek.
So, Geeks of the Week this week are Scott Crouch, Todd Cunningham, Christopher Stokes, Ray Kuhn, Dawn of the Rising. Congrats on the video release, guys.
Nice
Great
job, dudes.
Sean Cullen, Keith Rockford, Simon Catt, Brian Ingebrigtsen, Warren Edward, LaRue Baker, John Phillips, Patrick Breen, Aaron Baker, Jeffrey Mendenhall, Mike Parnell, Thor Bjorn Olson, Paul Korn, David Glenn, Joseph Capone, Craig Turtich, Mikhail Burrell, Andrew Jacobs, Bill Elam, Nick Minnow, Alan Deshawn, Doug Fox, Hakan Bergstad, Ingalls Musical, Coxie, Eladio, Ernesto Aguiar. All right, and I had to clear my throat because this is some bullshit. This is a Twitter handle called the Best Hard Rock and Metal Podcast. It's actually the @Cobras and Fire podcast. What the fuck, guys?
And modest, too.
Very modest. I love you, but you're not the best. You're the second best. All right, and then Stickman, Focus on Metal Podcast, Vet Halen, and as always,
the Mooger Fooger.
Fooger.
Nice. Those are our people. Those are our Geeks of the Week. If you want to become a Geek of the Week, it's real easy. All you got to do is get out there and share and retweet this week's episode, The Brush with Greatness, and you will become a Geek of the Week. You'll hear your name on next week's episode.
All right, so we've got 3 really cool guests lined up, and are you ready to get to them?
I really am. If you're ready for a brush with greatness, then I am too.
Don't forget, put your idea and your person that you want to talk about in the comments.
All right, so let me start off. You know, we're doing this concept today when we're talking to people about meeting famous rock stars. And, you know, I thought this was a great opportunity for me to reconnect with my old buddy. And he does a podcast of his own. And I'm talking about Jeff Cecil. Jeff's a guy that used to be a morning radio host on the radio station that I worked at in central Wisconsin. You know, central Wisconsin's #1 rock station, Z104. Yeah, that's the one. Some people remember that. But I know Jeff Cecil's met some famous people over the years. Jeff, I'm glad you're finally able to come on the show. How's it going, man?
Going great, man. I love the show, first off. I got to let you know that. You guys are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to music.
Oh, thanks, man.
I love it, yeah.
That's cool.
It reminds me of, who's that guy that, Matt Pinfield. It's like whenever you hear Matt Pinfield talk, and he's got all these, all these secret things, or all these, these things you didn't know about before with these older bands. And then it just blows your mind. And then you listen to you guys and it's like, yeah, this is great. Now all the interviews and everything too. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, you've got a kind of a Matt Pinfield voice yourself.
Well, thank you.
That's good. Right on. And Jeff, man, that means a lot to me coming from you because you're a guy that I always looked up to. When I came in at the radio station, I'd never worked in radio before, and the people that were all of a sudden my coworkers were people that were like local heroes, and you were one of those guys. I always loved your morning shows, and it's always been a pleasure working with you over the years. So, I appreciate the kind words. And like
absolutely. That was, I don't know, it was kind of some wild times in radio, I thought, back at Z104. We had some really good times and good shows and everything. And just everybody that was working there at that time that you and I and Nick and Linda and Steve and everybody that was there, it was like perfect. You know what I mean? It was like a perfect place to work, and it wasn't even work anymore,
No, it was a lot of fun, and it definitely was the end of an era for sure.
Yeah, when they shut her down.
That was when the Terminators took over. They rolled out the reel-to-reels and rolled in the computers.
Yeah,
said, oh, shit.
Cart machines.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome. I haven't thought about those in forever.
Some of my fondest memories in radio, for sure.
Yeah, mine too. So, like I said, I know over the years you've rubbed elbows with a lot of different famous rock stars, and I know you've got to have a great story for us for today.
One that really sticks out in my head was the time we pissed off William Duvall from Alice in Chains. They were the closing show. They closed the show. It was at Rockfest in Cadott. It was a 4-day festival, and we, being part of the radio station, we got free food and free booze all weekend long, and so we were a little inebriated at the end of the night, and we're hanging out in this like backstage area where the artist will come up sometimes and get food or get drinks or whatever, but they also had another part where they can go, and I always wondered, why don't they go in there? It's more private and whatever. But anyways, so we're 3 sheets to the wind, let's just say. And he comes up on this deck that we were standing on, and I'm like, holy shit, there's William Duvall. He says, I said to my friend, I said, let's go get our picture taken with him. So we go over there, and he's standing there with Chris Brown, singer from Trapped.
Okay.
And they're talking, and stupid drunk ass us. We're like, hey, can we get our picture? Can we get our picture with you? And the first thing I think that kind of set him off was that he asked my friend, who didn't know who Chris Brown was. I knew exactly who he was. Says to him, hey, can you take our picture? Oh. And I'm like, oh, no. He's got to be in the picture. We'll get somebody. I'll do a selfie,
Yeah.
I need shitty camera phones.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I hold it up, and I'm like, and they're all cool about it. At first they were cool about it. So I hold it up, and I snap the picture. I look at the picture. There's no flash. I'm like, son of a bitch. So they walked away already at this point.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, oh, we gotta get one more. We got to try it again. So walk up there, and I said, hey, can we get one more picture with you? But it didn't have a flash. You can't see the picture. He's like, yeah, let's go. So took the picture, and he's like, cool, thanks, and walks away. No flash. You can't even see the picture. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So then in my drunken state, I'm like, oh, let's do it again.
Oh, wow.
Well, this time we go over to him, and we're both just idiots. Just that you're drunk and you're just kind of being annoying.
Yeah.
I think we were pushing it a little bit. So I said, I'm really sorry. Can we get one more picture?
Oh, man, he's got to think you're messing with him at this point.
Oh, I know. And I could tell he was getting angry, but he wouldn't. He didn't show it, but I could tell,
Yeah.
I mean, I would be. Why not? Who wouldn't be
totally
getting mad at that? I said, one more picture. I'm really sorry. And he's like, all right, let's go. And so I'm like, okay, snap the picture. And the flash finally went off, got a good picture, and that was it. So, and I could tell that he was getting angry, but he was still very cordial about it. You know what I mean?
He was cool about it. Yeah, I could see being pissed in that situation. Like, come on, man.
I know. And he just got done with his show. he's probably tired, wants to get a drink or some water or some food or something. And here's my dumb, fat ass, drunk ass bothering him. One more picture, dude. I could just imagine. And now I know the picture's around somewhere. I just don't know where it's at. So.
Oh man, that should be your most cherished possession. You know what I went through to get that picture?
Yeah. Oh, there was one other time Ivan Moody came back up there. And this is when he had quit drinking, and there was a guy going, and this was after, they closed out the night too. He comes up there and he just wants to get some water and just relax a little bit, So this guy is yelling, "Hey, Ivan, do a shot with me. Do a shot with me." And he's like, "No." And he's really nice about it. Uh-huh. And he's like, "Oh, come on." So the guy comes up to him and he's got a shot in his hand. And he's like, "Just do it." And he's like, Ivan went off. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he yelled extremely loud to where everybody on that deck knew that he was there. And then dumbass me, stupid drunk me, I'm like, right after that, I'm like, "Hey, can I get a picture?" And he's like, "Sure." So he puts his arm around me and we get a picture. He was really cool, but some guy hounding him about drinking alcohol and he didn't want to do it. And he went off on the guy. So, but good for him, man.
Oh, yeah, I've heard several stories about Ivan Moody. His last name is well placed from.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, the Ivan we ran into that night, nothing but cordial. But I get the guy coming up in his face trying to get him to drink. And
if you don't want to drink, don't drink. And say no and say that should be enough. Kind of like bugging somebody 3 times for a pitcher.
My head tells me it was 4 times. But he did very well. I just remember following him around, feeling like an asshole.
If you find that picture of William Duvall, you should go on his Facebook page once a week and just post it and go, "Hey, remember this?"
I remember. Yeah, I remember you, asshole.
Yeah.
But there's been quite a few rock stars over the years. I've run into Kevin DeBro, peeing at Eli's Mile High. Remember that place?
Shoot, yeah, I do. That place was awesome.
Carlos Cavazzo, I'm pissing in the urinal next to him. I didn't even know. Again, I'm drunk. I don't drink a lot, but when I do, when I go to a show, I drink. And I'm standing next to him pissing. I look over. I'm like, "Hey, you're Carlos." He's like, "Yeah," and he walks out. And then Kevin DeBro was like pissed off that I was back in that bathroom area. I'm like, "It's a bathroom, dude."
That was when the bar itself was kind of like the backstage area because it was like an outdoor show, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
exactly. I remember that Rock Never Stops tour or something like that. Wasn't like Slaughter on there too? No, Slaughter, Quiet Riot, and
I can tell you a cool story about that show that I remember. We were hanging out backstage because I definitely remember this. I think I've probably told this story on the show before, but we're all hanging out backstage because we're with the radio station, and the first two bands already played, and it was time for the third out of 4 bands to go up. And Quiet Riot's standing there, and they're supposed to be headliners, but Warrant's not there yet. And this was kind of back when I think cell phones were just first starting to kind of become a thing, where people were getting them. And so what I kind of got the jive was going on because Quiet Riot was getting pissed. And they're going, "Where's Warrant? Where's Warrant? They're supposed to be here, And it's been a while since the last band quit playing and people are waiting for the next band to come out. And finally they go, "You know what? Fuck it. Let's go, And they go up on stage. And as soon as they hit the stage and start playing that first note, the Warrant tour bus comes rolling up.
Oh, no.
And so they get off the bus. We're in the back by the bar because there's people all sitting by the bar and stuff in the back. And Janie Lane comes walking right in, and he was like, "Holy shit," and all of a sudden I'm sitting right next to Janie Lane and I'm thinking, "Oh, you sly bastards, you just made yourselves the headliners of this show."
Wow.
And that's what they had done.
Oh, man, that's ballsy.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Quiet Riot was mad. I remember looking at Rudy Sarzo, and he had a pretty pissed off look on his face.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They said, "Screw it," and they went up and played.
Move.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll tell you
Who else was on that show? It was Warrant. Was Slaughter there?
I don't think it was Slaughter. I want to say there was one of them versions of LA Guns.
That could be, yeah.
I think it was the version of LA Guns that had Ralph from Steel Panther was the lead singer then. And I want to say maybe the other band was Great White.
Yeah, it seemed like they were on that tour every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I saw 2 versions of that tour, and Great White was on both of them.
I'll tell you a cool story. I think since we're sharing famous, run-ins with rock stars, this will show you, because this was Jeff when I first started working at Z104, and I was mainly on WJMT, which was the local news and information station, sitting across the way dreaming about the opportunity to one day be on Z104. And I'm in the studio, I'm in the stations in between, I'm talking to Nick Summers, and Nick says to me, hey, I'm going to step outside for a minute and have a smoke. I'm supposed to be getting a call from David Lee Roth. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, dude. And he goes, just keep an eye on the phone lines for me. If it rings, make sure you get it. I said, you got it, man. And so I'm sitting there and I'm staring at the phone. I'm like, yeah, wow, David Lee Roth calling the radio station. I work here, and the phone rings. I answer it. And I was like, Z104 WJMT. And yeah, this is David Lee Roth. And I'm just like, whoa. I said to him, wow, really? And he's like, yeah. And I said, all right, hang on a second. And I put him on hold. And I ran outside to Nick Summers, who was smoking. And I was like, Nick, David Lee Roth's on the phone. Put him on hold for you. And he said, you put David Lee Roth on hold? And he pushes me out of the way and tears up them stairs and into the studio and onto the phone with David Lee Roth on the air.
Oh, my God. Well, what were you supposed to do?
Well, what else are you supposed to do?
I don't know.
Funny.
I was just so blown away that I was actually on the phone with David Lee Roth that I put him on hold. And I didn't think nothing about it, but it's like, well, in 30 years from now, I'll be able to say, you know what? I put David Lee Roth on hold one time.
Yeah, exactly. That had to be around the DLR band era.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. Hey, talking about Sofa King, I remember that because that was like a Tesla offshoot, right?
Yeah. I think, did Jeff leave Tesla or did they kick him out?
I don't remember how that went down. I think they all just kind of split up, because then there was that other band that was called Bar 7.
Yeah, Bar 7.
They took a break when things fell apart with Tommy, I believe.
And then there was Sofa King.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember him, Jeff Keith, calling up from Sofa King and wanting to do, because I think they played in Wausau.
Yeah.
That day that he called up, but I don't know. I love Tesla. Tesla's been one of my favorite bands for a long time.
Heck yeah, us too.
I started out in radio when I was 15. And then when Mechanical Resonance came out, this was on a small town radio station. Do the news and obits at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then 8 o'clock would roll around, and I'd be on from 7 to midnight, and I'd throw on some Mechanical Resonance, throw on of course Back in Black, Def Leppard, Doc, and all that stuff. And I got yelled at, but that they had what's called an After 8 file, and the hardest thing in there was Back in Black. But so I brought my own stuff in.
I remember one time working on WJMT, and like I said earlier, that was the local news and information station. And like the heaviest thing on the catalog there was like some Barry Manilow or something.
Yeah.
But if you got looking in those CDs, there was some light rock in there that was actually kind of good. And I remember one time I'm playing Black Magic Woman because it's in the catalog. And Jeff Roberts, who was the owner of it and a super cool guy, he's in the studio with me. He comes walking in, he goes, "Oh man, I love this song." And he goes, "Wait a minute, you're not playing this on WJMT, are you?" And I'm fading it down and going into the next song going, "No, man, no."
Oh, man, that's great.
Yeah, those were awesome times for sure.
Yeah, they were. In a crappy-ass building.
Yeah, they finally tore that thing down.
I know. I haven't been back there since, but I bet it looks nice.
That was the most haunted place I've ever been in my life. It was cool, though. My number one favorite band from that era was Hair of the Dog.
Hair of the Dog, yeah. And you've talked to them recently, right?
Yeah, well, Ryan, that was the lead singer of Hair of the Dog.
Ryan Cook, right?
Yeah, he went on to be part of the Gene Simmons band and part of the Ace Frehley band and out there living the dream, yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
We've gotten to be really friendly with that guy. He's a good guy.
Oh, that's really cool. And what about, was their guitarist, was it Boot?
Yeah, Boot was the bass player.
A bass player. What I thought And I don't know 100%, but I thought one of them got sick, and that's kind of why they kind of split, split up or whatever.
Something went down. I mean, they put out 3 albums. It just wasn't happening for a band like that. But like I said, I remember being in that. It just wouldn't happen for a band like that in that era, is what I'm saying, But I remember going into like Inner Sleeve and looking at, like, they always had the top listing selling albums of the week, and it would be like Pearl Jam, Metallica, Hair of the Dog, and then something else, But in what I'm saying, like, in that little pocket of the world where we worked on that radio station and we cultivated things like that, they were the biggest band in the world.
Yeah, they were a huge hit in Wausau, and they were just, I thought, a good time party band,
Yeah, awesome band, awesome songs, great live shows, tons of energy. People loved it.
Yeah, you know what's funny is how many times did Jackal play in Wausau?
I was just gonna say, and of course, Jackal Mania.
They must have played, honestly, 20, 30 times in that area over the years, and never once did I go to a show. I wanted to. But I always had something else going on, and I couldn't make it to a show. I finally saw him at Rockfest.
Really? Out of all them years and all them shows, you never went to them?
Never went to a local show in Wausau.
That's crazy. Yeah, Jackal played like every 3 months they'd play.
I know. Oh, man. But, I finally did get to see him at Rockfest and killed it. I thought they were great.
So. Right on. Hey, talking about Hair of the Dog, how that all worked was Ryan was living down here. And I was on the show one day talking about Hair of the Dog, and nobody had ever heard of them. So we played one of their songs. And then Chris, a couple of days later, you were at a show or something?
I was actually at the Tom Kiefer show at 3rd and Lindsley, and our friend David Stonich was there. And he was like, I heard you talking about Hair of the Dog the other day on the show. Well, come over here. And that's where I met Jeremy Asbrock and Ryan Cook right there at the bar. It was really bizarre.
Wow.
So then that reconnects it, and by the time I get to meet up with them somewhere, I said, hey, man, I'm Aaron. I used to work at Z104 in Central Wisconsin. He's like, I remember you, dude. It was so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so cool.
I've got more stories, but we can share those later at some point.
All right, man. That sounds good. I really appreciate you coming on. I recommend everybody, if you like to laugh and you like to have a good time, you got to check out Jeff's show, the Poolside Podcast. I mean, how many episodes you guys got now?
We're going to be doing our 75th tonight.
Nice. So you guys can get in early before these guys become superstars, because I'm telling you, I laugh my ass off when I listen to you guys.
Oh, we have fun, man. And we'll send out some love to the Decibel Geek podcast too.
Right on. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Jeff Cecil, you were the second best rock and roll DJ in Central Wisconsin history.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Tell Greg Berlin we said hello.
Yeah, I will do that for sure.
Because he was the best.
Well, second best. Second best night guy third best night guy.
Oh.
He always yells at me that I took his job when he fucking quit.
Yeah, he did
and
quit.
I came over and took his job.
But here's the thing about that is he was way better of a night DJ than you were for some reason. Yeah. You were meant to be early mornings, I think.
Oh, I love the early morning. I love doing the morning show.
Because Greg, he was the guy that, like, when I finally got a shot at being the night show, it's like, man, I'm never going to be as good as Greg Berlin, but I'm going to have to give it my best shot.
No, you did great, man. You were freaking awesome. You had a great following, too.
Yeah, we did. We did some good, fun stuff on that show. Lots of adventures.
But I didn't, I just couldn't, I didn't mind doing nights, but it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't my thing. I liked I loved doing mornings,
Yeah.
It got to a point where I was having so much fun in the mornings. I took a week's vacation and ended up calling the show on Monday and going, hey, what's going on?
I remember one of my favorite things always to do was if you were out on a remote and I'd have to come in the morning and throw it to you, because we would just freaking rip on each other so bad. And that'd be half the thing. I'd be like, okay, shit, I gotta call Jeff on his remote. Okay, gotta get my wits about me. This is gonna be a nightmare.
Oh, that's awesome. Just to go back for one day, that would be so cool.
That would be awesome. All right,
man.
We'll go record your podcast, and we will definitely check it out. And thanks for coming on with us and telling us your awesome story about how you drunkenly harassed the lead singer of Alice in Chains.
All right. You guys have a great night. Decibel Geek.
All right, so joining us next is Richie Rivera, who is a drummer here from Nashville. And actually, this is a little bit of story time for us because you've been, I've run into you at shows everywhere. I've seen you play at the Rare Hair shows, and obviously we know you play for Janet Gardner, formerly of Vixen. But I don't know a lot about your background. Just tell us a little bit about, where you came from, who you've played with in the past, and start us off.
Yeah, no problem. So born and for the most part raised in L.A., moved to Nashville in about, I think it was 2014. And since then I've been playing for obviously Janet Gardner, like you said, but also a country artist named Hannah Anders, a pop artist named Chris Taylor, another country artist, Renee Roberts, this kind of southern rock meets Fleetwood Mac-ish band called Herrick, and a few other people here and there. But that's pretty much what I've done since Nashville. Prior to Nashville, I played with a guy named Avery Watts, who was sort of like a hip-hop, rock, rap hybrid sort of thing.
Wow.
And a few other people before that. And I was in my own band called Madison Page for a very long time prior to starting to whore myself out to the highest bidder in the hired gun world. So...
That's an interesting life you live. Like, jumping from project to project like that. That's got to be a lot to keep straight.
Yeah. I'm nothing if not for sale. But I definitely, I mean, luckily, I haven't really had too many conflicts as far as scheduling goes. And the nice thing about living in Nashville is that when anything does come up, I've got a bunch of guys that I know who all call on to sub for me, and they'll call me to sub for them if they can't make a show. So it's like, it's a cool network, and everybody trusts that anybody that you would refer somebody to is going to be good, and because anytime you do that, sort of your reputation with your artist or your band is kind of on the line there. It's like you don't want to stick them with someone who sucks. So, but yeah, it's a cool little community and a great networking opportunity out here.
Gotta love Nashville.
Moving to Nashville was hands down the smartest thing I ever did, which is a very short list, but it's still the smartest thing I ever did.
Well, the other smartest thing you ever did is you became a listener to the show. So you go back a long time listening to Decibel Geek?
Yeah, I mean, I discovered you guys a couple of years ago. I think actually first, you might have come on my radar, I want to say, with Albums Unleashed. And I can't remember if it was the Warrant Dog Eat Dog episode or prior to that, but I mean, once I heard that you guys love Dog Eat Dog, it was like love at first listen. I'm like, these guys, like they know what's up. Like, because that's my favorite album of all time by any band ever. So,
oh wow,
hell yeah!
The fact that you guys gave it that much attention, I got to learn so much about that. It's like, it's kind of like if someone's a huge Beatles fan or whatever, and you got to listen to George Martin talk about the making of Abbey Road or something like that, you're listening on, pins and needles and with bated breath, and that's what I felt listening to that episode. So from there, I was hooked.
Awesome.
Well, we were right there with you when we were hearing those stories, too. That's the beauty of it, because we're doing it only because, really, we just need an excuse to go hang out with Michael Wagner so he can tell us all about the making of Dog Eat Dog. The fact that we're recording it, hey, that's great, too.
Right.
But then the fact that somebody out there actually goes, man, this is my favorite album, this is amazing, that means a lot as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then, you did one on Slave to the Grind also, and I'm just sitting there going like, oh my God, it's basically like my record collection come to life. So I'm digging it.
Awesome.
I think you just gave us a new tagline. Your record collection come to life.
I like
great.
that. That was actually easy to remember.
Yeah, it's better than the whole, better than the old one we had.
Yeah, I'll just take a small percentage of the back end, but we'll work those details out later.
Yeah, I'll give you 20% of nothing.
Trust me, that's more money than I made all summer, so we're good.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. You hanging in there okay through all this mess?
Yeah, doing okay. I mean, I was with Janet Gardner in Australia for like a 10-day tour right when the whole coronavirus first thing started. And so we were like watching on TV as people were fighting over toilet paper. And we're like, what the hell is that about? And then we came back here, and turns out, yeah, that's what that's about. And, you know, not long after that, the bars in Nashville all shut down. And then Australia itself, actually, not long after we got back, they shut down all travel in or out of Australia until July of 2021.
Wow.
So if our tour would have been just a couple days later, we would still be in Australia. We'd be stuck there for a year and a half, which, by the way, would have been amazing on so many levels. But unfortunately, that was not to be the case. And so then we came back, I think, like March 10th. And so, like, I had a pretty busy March that was supposed to happen. I was supposed to fly out to LA to be in a music video with this band, and then come back to do a run of casino dates with this pop artist. And all of a sudden, poof, everything went up in the air. And then all the summer tours and festivals and shows and everything just vanished. And so now my world tour consists of going from my bed to my couch, basically. Like, that's it.
Oh, wow.
Man.
That's wild.
So, but we're trying to use this time to be creative. A lot of people are doing some really cool stuff, and I've been involved in a couple of things. So it's been, it's sort of a lemonade out of lemon situation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what we were always hoping, that after this is over, there should be like just a million. All our favorite bands should be coming out with new albums.
And hopefully, like, one or two of them will be pretty good.
Yeah. No kidding.
I hope so.
So we're doing this. This is a new experiment for us, and it's called Brush with Greatness. And essentially, it can be a story, good or bad, about your run-in with a rock star or somebody notable in the rock world. So you've had a little time to kind of chew on this and think about it. So what do you have for us?
Okay, so I've got a ton of these stories, and so just to throw this out there, like, if you guys are ever like starved for content and you're thinking like, I wonder if Richie's got a story, trust me, Richie's got a story. So
awesome.
So this one, this is the first one that came to mind when Chris kind of broached this to me. So I'm going to take you guys way back to 2004 for this one. We're going to hop in the way back machine, the DeLorean, whatever, and we're going to go to 2004.
Okay.
And so, like I said, I'm from L.A., born and for the most part raised there, and my favorite place in the entire world is the Rainbow Bar and Grill.
Yes.
So, yeah, the Rainbow, I mean, obviously anybody who listens to Decibel Geek knows about the Rainbow. It is my home away from home. It is, it is everything. I mean, the place is dripping with rock and roll history. Yep. It's also dripping with a few other things that are stories for another time.
Yeah, Ron Jeremy hung out there a lot, so.
Yeah, he did. And so this story says 2004. And so I'm going up to the Rainbow to meet some friends of mine, one of which is this guy named Derek, Derek Stevens, he's from Nashville, had moved out to L.A. to be a musician and was in a band with Simon, who now sings for Autograph. Their band was called First Round Knockout, and they were actually a great band. So anyway, I'm going up there to meet up with Derek and have some drinks and have a good time. And for those of you who have never been to the Rainbow before, it's kind of divided up into a few different sections. So you've got like the front patio area, the back bar, you've got the restaurant side, you've got the inside bar, the upstairs bar, and then you've got the Crow's Nest, which is like famous from like the Hollywood vampires and all that kind of stuff. Right. So Derek and I are hanging out in the upstairs bar, and with a bunch of his friends, and we're all just kind of shooting the shit and having some drinks, having a grand old time. When who walks up the stairs but the one, the only, Mr. Super Freak himself, Rick James.
Oh.
Walks up the stairs. And this is 2004, so this is prime Chappelle Show, it's Rick James, bitch.
Right,
Like it's that. Yeah, it is that Rick James. So he walks up and he's looking super fly. Like I remember he was wearing these like black leather pants with like a long black leather coat, a black leather shirt, which I didn't know was a thing until then. And he was like wearing all this bling. Like the dude was just like dressed to impress. And so he's got a group of people with him. And the upstairs at the Rainbow is kind of small. So you're eventually going to kind of bump into people and engage in small talk and whatever. And somehow throughout the course of the night, like our posses merged. Like my posse and his posse just got along. And so we started talking and laughing and having a good time. And Rick James says to us, he goes, "Hey, you guys are pretty cool." And so you'll have to forgive my Rick James impression. Like, I didn't have time to work on it. I don't know if it's culturally inappropriate or not, but that's the best I can do on short notice. So he goes, you guys are pretty cool. And so we're like, "Thank you, Rick James." And then he turns around and he goes, "Hey, do you guys want to go back to my place and party?" To which my friend Derek is like, "Fuck yeah, we do." and I'm sitting there going like, wait, hold on. I've seen his behind the music. Like, didn't he go to? I'm like, didn't he go to jail for like kidnapping a girl and holding her against her will?
He did.
And Derek's like, "But that was a long time ago." I'm like, "Well, that's a compelling argument." So next thing you know, we're leaving the Rainbow with Rick James, and I'll never forget this. As I'm leaving the Rainbow, I remember I texted my friend Ron, and I'm like, "Dude, if you don't hear from me by 4 p.m. tomorrow, call the LAPD and tell them I'm at Rick James's house." And my friend Ron, without missing a beat, doesn't write back a question mark, doesn't write back WTF, just writes back, "Got it." And I'm like, wow, that's how I live my life, apparently. Wow. So next thing you know, we're all in this like LA caravan, like weaving our way through traffic with cars following other cars, and we're winding our way through the Hollywood Hills, and we eventually come upon a street called Mulholland, which is like this really long street that kind of separates the west side from the valley, and it's a beautiful view. I mean, the view up there is absolutely breathtaking. And so Rick James lives in a gated community just set off of Mulholland. And so we pull up, he's got this really nice house, and he takes us on a tour, and he's got this backyard with like some sort of like babbling brook or like a creek with a bridge over it. It was very zen. Like, and you don't think of Rick James as being particularly zen, but it was very zen. And so we go inside of the house, and oh, this is great. I got to see Rick James's bedroom. Now, let me tell you something about Rick James's bedroom. Rick James's bedroom is nicer than most clubs I've ever been to.
Wow.
Like, it had like colored lights. It had that were like synced to the music. It had a disco ball above the bed. It had a fog machine. I mean, I paid to get into worse places than this. Like, it was unbelievable. And like there should have been a dude with a clipboard standing outside of Rick James's bedroom and a velvet rope telling me that I'm not cool enough to get in there. Like that's wow. How cool Rick James's bedroom was. I mean, it put the freak in super freak. So that's where that all stems from. So as the night wears on, like drinks are being handed out, and we're milling about having a good time. And Rick James has this like really big wall full of gold and platinum records from all these different artists. And so he sees that I'm like admiring it, so he comes over to me and he goes, "Hey, you like my collection?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do, Rick James." And he goes, "Hey, you know how I got these, right?" And I'm just like, I'm thinking in the back of my head, these are your trophies from when you kidnapped all those people? But I don't say that because I want to live. So I'm like, "No, how did you get these?" And he says, "Well, like anytime anybody samples my music, I get one of these things." I was like, "Oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, you would get one of those." And so he's like, "Come with me." So next thing you know, he takes me over to this dining room table, and everyone's kind of starting to settle in at this long table. And there's no more than 20 of us at this thing. There's maybe closer to 12 or 15. And we're all sitting around this table, and he's got this like little like wife or girlfriend or somebody who disappears into the kitchen. And I'm thinking, oh great, we're gonna get some food because I'm starving. Like I'm dying over here. And so I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what like Rick James eats. Like, it kind of just went through my head like it's going to be like some fancy thing. And then she comes out with a tray, and I'm thinking, oh great, maybe it's more like finger food, like finger sandwiches or something like that. Puts the tray down on the table. It is a tray full of cocaine.
Oh,
now
2004.
Yeah. Now, again, I had seen Rick James's Behind the Music, so like according to his Behind the Music, he was like clean and sober and ready to take on the world again.
Right.
That was not the case. Like, let me tell you something about like watching Rick James do cocaine. It's a beautiful sight to see. Like, I don't do cocaine. Like, I've never done any drugs whatsoever. I never have, never will. But it was a thing of beauty. Like, the only analogy that I can use that makes sense to me is like, did you guys see the ESPN documentary, The Last Dance, about Michael Jordan and the Bulls?
I did.
So when you watch Michael Jordan play basketball, it moves from like like the area of athleticism into the realm of artistry.
Right.
That's what watching Rick James do cocaine is like. I mean, it's a terrible, disgusting, corrosive habit, but holy shit, he did it well. And so, as the night wears on, the night, not surprisingly, turns into the morning, and I'm always a night owl anyway, so I can hang with people no matter what they're doing, even though I don't partake in any of that stuff. So it's now like 8 o'clock or 9 in the morning, and Rick James's little wife or girlfriend or whatever disappears into the kitchen again, and she comes back out with another tray, but this time the tray is full of pancakes, and I'm stoked. I'm like, finally. And so, we all start divulging these pancakes and devouring them. And I'll never forget, I was sitting next to Rick James, and I actually got to ask Rick James, I said, "Excuse me, Rick James, can you pass the maple syrup?" Which is a phrase I never thought I'd use.
Wow.
And then not long after that, he kind of sent us on our way, and that's my brush with greatness. Rick James was the nicest guy in the world. He dispelled any preconceived notions I had about him. He was generous. He was funny. He was kind. He was jovial. He was unbelievable. And the unfortunate postscript to all of this is that it was probably like maybe 6 or 8 months later that he passed away. But that's my brush with greatness with Rick James.
Well,
that's
but Corey,
amazing.
obviously he passed away. I mean, he's still doing trays full of cocaine at that age. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only going to end one way, and it's not going to end on, happily ever after.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he went out doing what he loved.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
When you got a gift like that, you just can't waste it.
And you have more, and you have more of these types of stories.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh God, yes.
You're coming back on the show for sure.
That was amazing.
Anytime. I've got nothing but time on my hands. Not lots of time and lots of stories. So hit me up anytime.
That's going to be hard to top. Thank you so much for coming on and telling us this, Richie.
No problem, dude. Anytime.
So rounding things out today, after Richie's insane story about Rick James, we have Dave Tedder, who is a record industry guy and a publicist who's out in Las Vegas. Dave's been on the show before, as you guys know. But he was one of the first people I thought of when Aaron came up with this idea, because I was like, if anybody has stories, I'm pretty sure Dave Tedder has stories. So Dave, how you doing?
I'm not bad. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good, man.
Good. So, tell us about this docking thing that I experienced back in 1986. I grew up in Frankfurt, Germany, and my dad was in the Air Force. We got stationed over there. That's where I lived my teen years, like the best years of your life spent in that city, which were the absolute best years. So everything musically you could think of happened within Frankfurt, and the city was amazing in itself. Like the spring of '86, Dokken were coming over to tour with Accept. Accept was headlining and Dokken was opening.
Right on.
And my friend Renee Knotts, who was my best friend at the time, probably still is actually. He was like Germany's new guitar hero. He was supposed to be the next Matthias Jabs, the next Michael Schenker, you name it. That was him. He didn't quite get there, but he had Metal Hammer was covering. It was all over him every episode. What year was this? Every issue. Crash was all over him, just proclaiming him that. So his hero was George Lynch. So, of course, he was going. And then my girlfriend at the time, Silka, was going. We all lived on different parts of Frankfurt, and we'd always meet in the center of where we lived, which is this place called the Canadian Pacific Plaza Hotel. And that just ironically happened to be where all the bands stayed when they came to town.
Okay.
We would meet there, and we would go out to where we were going, go out in the town or whatever. And because it was like on the U-Bahns, the subways, it was easy to get to there and easy to get around. We were going to meet at the hotel to go to the show. I got there probably, I don't know, half an hour, maybe more than the other guys did, than the other two of them did. Pre-cell phone, so I don't know if they're there yet. But I'm walking around the hotel, finding them and not finding them, and and realized I was the first one there. So I'm hanging out in the lobby, and I wind up talking to two guys from Dawkins Road Crew who happened to be brothers and happened to live in Atwater, California, which is where my dad was stationed when I was like 10 years old, at Castle Air Force Base there. And so I was like, whoa, I lived there when I was 10 and blah, 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 all that stuff, and talked about the elementary school we went to and all that and sort of thing. As the conversation went on, one of the guys asked me if I had an American VCR. Like, well, not exactly on me, but what's up? And as it turned out, Electra had given the guys a VHS copy of the In My Dreams video, I think it was, with the rain. But the Hunter, the In My Dreams, whichever one that was, I can't remember. And sent them to Europe and said, watch it when you can. Well, Europe, the UK, and the US were on 3 different cycles, so they couldn't watch the video.
Oh, wow.
So they find an American living over there. And, we did have, at the time my dad was retired, so we lived off base, and we lived in what was basically a mini mansion, like a 3-story house with a basement. And I had my own floor. I had my own little living room, the whole 9 yards. It was perfect for a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
So, I'm like, yeah, we have several at home, but, what's up? And he told me, like, well, let me call my mom and see if, he's like, can you either bring the VCR here, which is totally going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Or can we go to the house afterwards? I'm like, who is we? He said, the band and the crew. I'm like, okay, all right, let's call mom and have her tell me no. So I called mom, and she said yes.
Oh, wow.
Just be quiet and stay on your floor. I'm like, okay, be quiet. That's not going to happen, Mom. So, I mean, by this point in my life, she was pretty used to my antics. Having people, God knows who over at freaking midnight or whatever. I'll walk out of the phone booth, remember those, and tell the guys, we're good to go. You can, come to the house after the show. But now I've got 2 problems. I don't know how to get to my house, except on an U-Bahn.
Oh, shit.
Or a subway, I mean. And the second one was, and this is before GPS, so we couldn't just put in my address and go there.
Right.
And the second one was, German streets are really small. So how do we get that tour bus was what I assumed we'd be traveling onto our street. We'd have to park a mile away and walk there. So, I'm freaking out inside going, okay, this is happening, but how are we going to make it happen? And I think Renee showed up next. Renee Knotts, my friend again. Silka probably showed up about 20 minutes after that. So, and they had told me, we'll give you all access passes for the show, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, then. So I tell Renee and Silka what's going on. And, like, all right, cool, let's just get down to the Stadthalle and get our passes and make sure they're there and not, having some guy screw us around. So we got there and they were there. Our tickets were there. All access passes were there.
Nice.
So we sold our tickets and, went inside. So Dokken was opening. We hung out in the crowd for, quite a bit. Then we went backstage to watch the show from the stage because we could. So I think we watched one song from the side of the stage and then, hung out in back with the crew guys and then went back out front. And I don't think we went back at all after Dokken had come off stage. We watched part of Accept's show and then we, of course we had to watch their show from the stage too. So we watched one song again. I remember that much. And then we just went in the back and hung out and I'm still freaking out how we get to my house. Because I literally, I'd never, gone there in a car, ever.
So let me stop you for a second. So
yeah,
let me help set the stage. So were you were already doing publicity at this point?
No, I was just doing other stuff. But
I mean, you had record label connections, and that's why they wanted to watch the video So basically,
No, they wanted to watch the video because he was the only one with a VCR.
Oh, I know, but I'm just trying to figure out your connection to Dokken at the time.
None. There's literally none. I was waiting for Renee and for Silka.
He was a fan going to the show.
And then, I went up talking to the two brothers that were in the crew.
So you're trying to set up a watch party with the members of Dokken to watch the In My Dreams video at your mom's house.
Correct.
That's hilarious.
That's what I did when I was 20.
That's awesome.
But I knew a lot of people at the labels, and this guy Ossie Hoppa, who was the #1 concert promoter in Europe. He had toured with, when he was a kid, he had toured with Deep Purple. He was basically Richie's right-hand man, Rainbow, Deep Purple, and a million other bands as well, AC/DC. He was their tour manager. And then after a while, he started a promotions company in Frankfurt called Shooter, Shooter Second. The Top Concerts, I think, was what he called it first, and then he changed it to Shooter because of a partner change. And he and I were good friends, and he would always tell me like who was coming to town, and hey, come on down, blah blah blah, at 5:00, hang out a couple of hours, have a few drinks, and just take off. And so I was used to that stuff. That was like I did that. I don't know, God, 10 times a year. And I would bring a friend or 3 or 4 or whatever with me. Right on. And so that was just life. And so, Renee and Silka, when this happened, they were like, yep, Dave up to his antics again. But it had literally had nothing to do with that. It was just, we were going to the show. And I happened to meet these two brothers from the crew that went to my elementary school as a child. While I was waiting on them, and that was it. And they needed a VCR to watch the freaking video on. Literally it. So that one was kind of a weird one for me.
Well, I've got the video playing on mute, of course, on YouTube in front of me, and it's really not a very good video.
Yes, I remember thinking that. Like after we finally saw it, I was like, that kind of sucked. That was the rain, the one with the rain, right?
Yes.
But you got to remember, at this point, the band hasn't even seen their own video, so they're dying to see it.
Right. They're dying to see it. It's 1986. They have no way to see it at all, except for a freaking VCR. And it hadn't even been. I think the tour started in Spain or France, so they hadn't even been to the UK yet, where like they could probably get a call placed over, going, hey, can you get us a video to watch while we're in the UK? But they went there afterwards, if I remember correctly, and they had no way of watching it, So we would go to we're at the show, and we went back. Like I said, we watched an Accept song from the stage, then we just went in the back to get our marching orders. And in the meantime, none of the three of us, myself, Silka, Renee, hadn't figured out how the hell we're getting there.
Wow.
We'd not worked this one out unless we want to take 12 people or whatever it was on the subway with us.
Okay.
We're in the back. No, it must have been before that because George was still warming down or coming down from being on stage. And again, he was Renee's idol. Like Renee moved like him. He played like him. The whole 9 yards. And, Renee's jaws hit the ground. His eyes are popping out. He's watching George Lynch like 3 feet in front of him play guitar.
Nice.
So his life was over at that point. He could die in 2 minutes and he'd be the happiest person on earth. So he's watching him, and I remember George did something, and Renee's like, can you do that again? And George, he was sitting on a chair, he stood up, put the guitar down, said no, and walked out. Which was the biggest dick move you could do. I mean, come on,
You didn't want to teach him how to do it.
Right, exactly. You didn't want to show him. No, of course not. But and George also didn't know that Renee was 1/3 of the people getting him to watch this video. So, if he was with me. So we're back there just talking. I think some of the Accept guys popped in from time to, we were there a long time. And again, I still haven't figured out how we're getting there. And then a fight breaks out between George and Don.
Oh, wow.
So we got to see one right in front of us. We didn't just read about it. We didn't just hear about it. We witnessed it. And they were pushing each other, and so I don't know what it was about. Probably you walked in front of me on stage or some shit like that. And it was a good 3 or 4 minute little push back and forth. And I remember Don was trying to convince everybody he was 27 years old. This is 1986, remember? So we would have been, what, 58? No. At least a decade older. So, but all this is going on, and I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here. I got to clear my head. We're almost at the end of the night here. So I'm going to look really terrible if I can't figure out how to make this happen. So I'm walking down the hallway. There's this catering room, and I get yanked, like an old movie, I get yanked inside of it by Mick Brown, who he was there, and Jeff was there, and one of the brothers was there. And Mick's like, we're so tired of this shit. Us, your girlfriend, your friend, we're getting in a couple of cabs, and we're going to your house. I'm like, okay, one problem solved. Let's hope we don't have to get the bus, onto the small street.
Yeah.
The other problem, the problem still remained was we're in Offenbach. We're 40 minutes away from Murfelden, which is the town I lived in. Are they going to know how to get there? Or are they gonna, like once we get into the area, I know where to go. Still figuring all that. We've got that figured out, we think. And so I go and get Renee. I get Silka, bring them back into the room. George and Don are being left behind. The other two guys are being left behind.
Wow.
And we're all just going. The door opens. Peter Manch walks in. We're not going anywhere. So we didn't get to go and show them the Dawkins video at my house.
Wait a minute.
Oh, man. So it didn't even happen.
Who walked in?
Peter Manch, Dawkins' manager, was on the road with them at the time.
Okay. And he said nobody's going nowhere?
He's like, yep. He said, you guys aren't going anywhere. He heard about it, of course. Everyone was talking about it. But I mean, I don't blame the guy because who the hell were we?
Right.
We could have murdered them. We could have held them for ransom. We could have, whatever. But yeah, so that ended that. So it didn't happen. Renee got to meet George. So that was kind of cool. Oh, at the end of the night, we were literally the last people out of the last two people out of the hall, except for, of course, the workers there. Because we were eating all the food and drinking all the leftover stuff. And as we were leaving, I kind of looked back where we shut the door or whatever. And the room we walked out of had a sign on it, a paper sign that said Dawkins Dressing. Like, hey, I went, and we walk away. And I went back for it, and I'm like, I want that sign. And Renee's like yelling at me, oh, you stupid fool, you idiot, you fag, you this, you that. You don't want that. No, come on. I'm like, what the hell's with him? So I get the sign, and I kind of fold it in half. And I'm walking up, and he's like, man, he says, I wanted that sign. I didn't think to get it until you just now got it. So,
you still got it?
I think I still do.
Nice.
I'll look for it. There's a whole bunch of stuff in a couple of boxes. If I don't have it here, my mom's got it at their house. But I think I actually saw it a few months ago when I was looking for something, and I think it kind of fell out of a folder.
I'm glad to hear that you and your mom are still talking, even though you blew her opportunity to party with Dawkins.
Right? Come on, I screwed that up so badly.
I was just waiting. I was just waiting for you to say that Wild Mick Brown had a tray filled with cocaine that he wanted you to partake in.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
And a golf cart.
I'm sure that was on the table, no pun intended, for all involved.
And not too surprising that even way back then, Dawkins and Lynch are fighting backstage.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, we had heard, we had read about it. We hadn't, again, 86, no internet, no anything like that yet. So we had read about it in Metal Hammer and we got every magazine in Frankfurt, whether it was German, American, English, French, whatever. They all came to Frankfurt. We picked them all up. And so we read about it in there. And then we had our own little club, like the Rainbow in Frankfurt called the Clappercon. Richie, the owner of the Clappercon, had a friend somewhere in the States that would make him however long the longest VHS videos were, like 6 hours or 3 hours or whatever, videos of Headbangers Ball episodes and send them over. So we would get, each I don't know, every month, I guess he would get like new videos. And so we would hear about George and Don fighting on the MTV, little news reports, but you never think you're going to see it. You know?
That's wild. Yeah. Getting to see
right
it.
there. I mean, he wasn't a punch up or anything. He was just them fighting, pushing each other back and forth and yelling at each other about God knows what. Fun night for everybody except them, I guess. I don't know.
That's awesome. I was so hoping it would have happened though, because I'm trying to picture all the guys in Dawkins sitting around your mom's house watching that video.
Right, exactly. I mean, and like we had somebody from Tokyo Blade over. I had I didn't grow up with, but kind of grew up with the guys in Destruction. So Marcel would come over every now and again and just hang out. Him and Buffo, who was Tankard's manager. None of the Tankard guys were let anywhere near my house because they were wrecks. But so yeah, and she was used to just crazy stuff like that happening.
Dave, that was a cool story, man. Glad you shared it with us.
Yep. Like I said, I hated it when we moved there. Loved it by the time we left. Didn't want to leave.
And you have a big project in the works, and I'm probably not ready to kind of spring the details on that, but we will have you back on when you're ready to launch that. But we've been talking behind the scenes. It's going to be really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it'd be really good. The launch is actually on the 14th of September, so not even a month from now.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and share details on it, or do you want to wait?
I can give some stuff away. Some of it. Hi, I haven't been drinking at all. Some of it away, I guess. We're starting a channel for now on Roku. It'll be streaming eventually, but we have to get all the licenses in from the major labels. It's just taking forever and a day to get done. But we're doing a Headbangers Ball type of thing called Detox TV, and it'll be on Roku first, and then it'll transition over to Amazon and to Apple over a next period of months.
Nice.
And so it'll be on all three platforms after a while. And at first it's going to be on demand only, simply because it'll be all independent bands for the on-demand stuff, because we can't play any major label stuff.
Yeah. We
don't have the license for it. And we don't want to do the streaming part of it, which is going to cost a lot more than the on-demand stuff until we can get an audience in. Because there are so many people, so many quote-unquote 80s, metal fans that really, all these years later, still really only know Motley Crue, Whitesnake, Rat, Dawkins, Straight White, and they don't even know of, like the Trouble Tribes and the Blondes and the Johnny Crashes, and they don't even know those bands, much less Crazy Licks and Eclipse and Heat and all those bands.
Shoot, yeah.
So for us to, so hopefully we'll pull a wider audience in when we go streaming, and we're airing, some of the same videos we've seen a million times, as well as going deeper into the video catalog. And instead of airing, there's no Motley Crue videos that aren't really well known, but instead of airing the really well known videos from the bigger bands, we'll air the rarely seen ones.
I like it.
But again, we can't do that till it's streaming because we need the audience there. So in before that, starting on 14th September, we've got about 8 VJs, and then we're going to have shows popping up on Plymouth Rock TV on Roku. So like you go to Roku, you search out Plymouth Rock TV, right there, you click in, you'll see Detox TV or Detox Television. And it'll literally be just bands that are, again, like Crazy Licks, The Cruel Intentions, Denman probably.
Awesome.
Your local boys there. It's all stuff like that. Everyone's retooling there. They're learning how to do stuff. There's some real talent that I didn't realize we had, or they didn't realize it, unless they'd rehearsed it 97 times and not let us know that, which is perfectly fine. So yeah, it starts kicking off 13th September. Plymouth Rock Television on Roku. Going to be, I think, 2-hour segments. When we're streaming, each show will be 2 hours long. I'm not sure if the on-demand thing will be 1 hour or 2 hours. But it'll be an hour straight of them talking the music. There won't be any commercials until we go streaming. And when we do the commercial streaming, it'll be relevant commercials. It won't be Clorox. It won't be State Farm. It'll be record company ads and lifestyle shops and websites, stuff like that. So that's basically it.
Man,
very cool.
Yeah, that's real cool. I didn't know you were looking for rock and roll and heavy metal VJs, man. What about your boys right here on the Decibel Geek?
Well, you guys are going to be a part of it.
Okay.
A lot of you guys are going to be a part of it. Not just you guys, but a lot of the different podcast people we're going to have on from time to time. And we've actually reached out to and gotten a hold of Ricky Rackman, who says, let me know when it's up and airing, and I'll check it out, to be like a guest. Like you guys will be like the experts.
Right on.
So yeah, so you'll say like we have a few VJs in Nashville, ironically, and so maybe you'll get together with them or do it through Skype or whatever. But just do like a little 20-minute little piece at a time and just talk about music or talk about a particular thing. Like when time draws near, do a rock and pod thing, of course, but talk about something else like Jerry McGee from Brighton Rock just passed away. Have you guys on to talk about that or something, discuss Brighton Rock sort of thing or whatever. So we're going to make the podcast community a part of this whole thing as well.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about that.
Yeah, as it draws near, and as we get things a little more lined up, I'll definitely let you guys know about it in more detail, of course. And it's also going to be, it's not just going to be, AOR and hard rock stuff. There's going to be brutal metal stuff on there and alternative rock and stuff as well. We want to cover everything, but I'd say a good 75% of it will revolve around the 80s metal stuff and current bands that sound like them.
That's cool, man.
So, yeah.
That's our demographic.
Because we know as soon as we do this, someone else is going to go, oh, we need to do that for brutal metal. Well, we want to have that covered already,
Yeah.
So we're going to do that for alternative metal. Oh, we want to have that covered already too. So
keep us in the loop on that, and thanks for coming on and telling the Dawkins story.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it was close to Rick James, but
I don't know if you can top Rick James, but it was
just can't top Rick James.
I don't know Rick James, but knowing Rick James is nowhere even close to it. So,
oh,
awesome.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thanks,
guys.
Dave.
You too. Bye.
Cheers.
To say. Chew them up and spit them out. Seize the flakes, they think you're hot. They think there's more than what you got. You lick your lips and make them scream and shout. You cheer me up and let me fall. You said no games and blink them all. You think you're rich, you think you've got it all.